Welcome to Happiness with Hema. Welcome to yet another interesting topic. If you're somebody who's very interested with soil, farming, nature, this topic is going to fascinate you. Permaculture from scratch with Krishna McKenzie Beginner's Guide. The topic is From Soil to Soul, the permaculture way. And today's guest is somebody very special, Mr. Krishna McKenzie. Krishna McKenzie is British-born farmer, educator, musician, and he's here in India since 1992. He's a permaculture leader and founder of Solitude Farm, helping building communities through food, art, and soil. He's also featured in BBC and is also TED Talk speaker. So it's my immense pleasure to invite this dynamic personality, Mr. Krishna McKenzie, for sharing his wisdom. So let's connect with him directly. Hi, Krishna ji. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
First of all, welcome to this live. And I was just introducing you from my end. I was saying like Krishna McKenzie is a British-born. He's a farmer, educator, and musician. So, and he's also featured in BBC, and he's a TED speaker also. So many like hats. You're a versatile person. Yeah. So let's start our live. I'm very privileged to have you on board. So, Krishna ji, I'll start my first question, my first segment, the journey. So, let us begin at the beginning. You came from British and eventually created Solitude Farm in Auroville. What inspired you to this extraordinary journey? And was there any one moment you realized that this is a life I want to go ahead with? Over to
Okay,
you.
so thank you for having me this morning. Yeah, pleasure to be with your audience in Singapore. That's wonderful. I was a student in the Jiddu Krishnamurti school. If you're familiar with J. Krishnamurti, is a very well known Indian
Spiritual person,
philosopher.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Indian philosopher, spiritual
Yes.
teacher, and he had schools all over India, one in America and one in England. And
Right.
that school was very free. We weren't pushed to become anything in particular. We weren't pushed to become doctors or engineers. Rather, we were given a space to explore who we were, and to ask more, more of the deeper questions of life, who am I and what's my purpose in this world? So the activities in the school, the curriculum, all of that, it reflected that freedom. And at that school, I was studying jazz guitar with the well-known guitarist Amancio de Silva, and
Okay.
I was doing a lot of theater. I was studying genetic engineering with my teacher Francesco Calvo, and I was also helping run the vegetable garden with a man called Freddie. And Freddie had lived in Auroville in the 70s and the 80s, so he inspired me very much that to live a life close to nature, to start exploring my relationship with nature and growing my own food. And he showed me that direction basically, and he told me about Auroville, and so I came here. By the age of 19, I was already living in Auroville, and I was already farming, and learning to grow rice and millets and dals, and understanding processes of rotations and intercropping, and understanding most fundamentally the seasons. And I would say the really important thing that I came to learn is about the language, and how the language is the golden key to understanding any particular bioregion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've already like started, many people started asking questions, but we will take it. Your camera is freezed. Is it okay? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I
Okay.
can see you.
Very interesting. Your journey has been like a beautiful journey. And I think since if you have started your journey since 19-year-old, you were very clear that you want to dedicate your life towards farming, soil health, and educating people about it.
Well,
That's
it was very
amazing.
much a spiritual call, actually, my interest is in sort of Advaita, non-duality, like these deeper questions that are there all throughout your life until the day you die. You have that, question, who am I?
Yes, yes,
And so for me, the farming is very much a context to explore, your life, and it's a very beautiful context because if I feel one of the most profound philosophies in the world is that of non-duality, that there is only one thing in this world and you are that thing, you
yeah,
are that. And that and nature represents that. Nature has no agenda. Nature, if the
absolutely.
mango drops 500 fruits and you eat them or I eat them, or if they are, or if they are, rotting or eaten by a rat, it's all, all buddy, no problem.
Yes.
So I think that there's a great integrity and beauty in that. And there's a
Mm.
lot to learn, on a sort of inner level from being with nature.
Absolutely, I totally resonate, and it's very pleasure to know your journey. And let's move to the next segment, understanding permaculture, which you are deeply working with. So the word permaculture can sometimes sounds very complicated and very not familiar to many people who are the beginners. So if you had to explain to someone who's haven't grown even a single tree, so how would you describe it? And how is it different from organic farming or natural farming?
So firstly, let's put aside organic farming, because anyone, go and ask anybody's grandma, at least from India,
Mm-hmm.
and you ask, anyone over the age of 80, and you say, when you were a child, was there organic farming? Their answer will be, everything was organic when I was a child.
Yeah, yeah.
So this organic farming is like a big pit, a big hole we've dug. We've climbed in that hole and we can't get out, and we call that organic farming. But
Mm.
so that's just throw that away. That idea, it's a nonsense.
Okay.
Nature is inherently organic.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see you have natural farming, which is, I would say, is the philosophy. And natural farming as defined by Masanobu Fukuoka, who is my guru, he talks about a non-interventional farming. He recognizes that there is an intelligence which is inherent in nature.
Nature.
It's like the intelligence that allows your skin to grow back, and the intelligence of nature to make dark skins in hot climates and light skins in cooler climates. I mean, it's an inherent intelligence in nature to
Right.
regulate the climate,
Mm-hmm.
to produce all sorts of foods, to find this balance with all the life in the soil.
Yeah.
So the less we disturb nature,
Mm-hmm.
the more nature can offer us. The problems we're facing in the world today are all due to man trying to, dominate nature and extract from her a very myopic profit of money, whereas
Mm.
nature's profit is actually starts with nutrition and medicine,
Yeah.
ecological profit, social
Right.
and cultural profit.
Mm.
So permaculture, coming back to the original question, permaculture is, I would say, is the common sense. It's it. People shouldn't get too lost in concepts.
Mm.
Permaculture is an exploration of relationships with man and his environment. So it's looking at how water flows across the land, and permaculture would be exploring how to maybe make ponds and make swales and bunds, and how to stop erosion, how to
Mm-hmm.
let that water stay on the land.
Mm.
Permaculture is also looking at alternative buildings using natural material like mud, like clay, like bamboo
Yeah.
and different fibers. Permaculture is also looking at alternative energy, like a solar, look like wind
Mm.
or hydro.
Okay.
Permaculture is looking at man and his relationships. And if you go in the field, and you look at permaculture in the field, you're looking at basically how all these plants are interacting according to their physiology. So you have plants at different strata, like a very, very tall mango tree, and a
Mm.
very, very small creeper, like the long black pepper, or a sweet potato,
Mm-hmm.
and everything in between as well. So the different strata of the plants is one thing, and then the other thing is the time duration. So some plants are very, very fast to grow,
Yeah.
and some plants take a long time to grow. For example, if we created a field now and we made a bed and we sprinkled amaranth, within
Yeah.
6 to 7 weeks in this climate, we could harvest it as a spinach, what
Okay.
we call in Tamil as tandakire.
Mm.
But if next to that you put, say, a lady's finger, that would take maybe more like 2.5 to 3 months. If you
Okay.
put next to that something like a taro, what we call in Tamil sepankeling, or in Hindi Arabi, that will take 7 months. Or the turmeric, 7 months. Then
Okay.
you put next to that, say, tapioca or papaya, banana, pineapple, that takes 1 year
Mm.
approximately.
Yeah,
And then
9 months.
you put next to that a custard apple or another fruit tree, that takes a minimum of, say, 4 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you have different time durations, which is essentially one dimension that we experience, time,
Mm.
and you have different physiology, which is, again, different dimensions. So
Right.
basically, permaculture is looking at all these relationships, and also the water, also the soil,
Mm.
how we can understand nature better
Mm.
by valuing those relationships. Now, the distinction that I make is my teacher Fukuoka, who I had the chance to meet about 23 years ago. He was a short little guy with a big white beard, indigo kimono, and wooden chapels. He was Japanese. He was 92 years old. He didn't really speak very much. But one thing he told us was that only a fool will understand nature. You see, so even within permaculture, people think they understand this, and you have to do that, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. But actually, what happens in nature? Leaves fall, trees fall, there is decomposition, and soil
Mm.
becomes healthy. You know,
Yeah.
mankind hasn't created all the forests in the world. So I think that trying to follow a path of non intervention. It's almost like an oxymoron, a path of non intervention.
Right.
That's the way that we have followed in Solitude Farm. And last year we had 14 tons of harvest. And so
Beautiful.
that speaks volumes about not using machinery, not using prepared composts,
Mm-hmm.
um, all the sprays and the preps, not using chemicals, not using all these ideas, much more allowing nature to offer us gifts. So if
Okay.
you come in the farm, you'll see, oh wow, that jackfruit grew on its own, that custard
Mm.
apple grew on its own, that guava grew on its own, that soursop grew on its own, and
Yeah.
all the spinaches growing on their own, and haldi coming back on its own, pineapples growing back on their own, even sometimes lady's finger and beans growing back on their own. So it's such a diversity of plants that are really the residents of this bioregion. They're our community, and what you're doing is facilitating the possibility for them to emerge, rather than you saying we want to grow this because we want to earn this money.
Mm. Beautiful answer. And many people are commenting that they are liking you have a wisdom of knowledge in this. And in nutshell, if I say Krishna ji, permaculture is let nature do its work, right? Let to understand nature and then let the nature take charge. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
kind of
not
farming.
to the point is you can't understand nature. You know, you
Yeah.
can't, and if you take the soil and you see there are millions of microorganisms, mold, bacteria, insects, earthworms,
Yeah.
fungi, small animals, and the mycelium, you know,
Hmm.
you can't understand that. Even if you go to Harvard or MIT and you put it in a lab under a microscope, exploring those organisms in isolation
Right.
from each other, you know,
Hmm.
you don't understand them. You know, they only exist, it's like quantum physics, no?
It's
Actually,
content.
you know, something only exists in relation to something else. So to study
Right.
it outside of its, to study it in isolation has no sense. You don't understand it. And
Yeah.
so we don't try to understand it. What we do try and do is keep chopping and dropping, returning organic matter back to the soil continuously.
So
That's
in a
what we've been
nutshell, it's
doing.
like stop mining, but give back to soil, and then soil will do. The
Definitely.
nature is going to do its work, right?
Soil is what we call in England, you know, in Europe, Gaia. In
Hmm.
South America, Pachimama. In India, she has many names. One is Bhumidev, you know,
Bhumi
but
Devi.
but she's a divinity, and I think that when we start to understand that and start to have a little bit more humility, then she will shine, and she loves us. You know, we're also her creation. You know, so she offers us a
Absolutely.
lot of things, but we don't have the eyes to see that due to very, you know, myopic education system and our incessant, you know, running after a profit to buy a new iPhone or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Mm.
we have to see the value of what she, you know, what she has.
Absolutely. It was very enlightening to know your point of view, and the way you have explained is absolutely, I think, very nice. And my let's move to the next segment, where to begin. Many people feel they need uh, big acre of lands, large budget, or expert knowledge. Or if not expert knowledge, definitely I think expert knowledge is needed, but they need to be expert to start with a this kind of a permaculture style. So do you think it's a myth? So, and the next part is, if someone has only a balcony, backyard, or a rooftop, or a small piece of land, what are the first three practices they must take care immediately? And one of the question which one of the a person in this uh, I can see the somebody is asking, in 1 acre of land, for the permaculture, 1 acre of land, how many manpower we need it? So
Okay, let's start at the beginning. So, firstly, the more we move away from nature, because
yeah.
everyone has to have a degree, everyone has to have a, you know, fancy job. That
Mm,
job doesn't include understanding all these plants. You know, the more we move towards an urban and industrialized life,
mm,
then the more effort it'll take to come back, you know.
yeah.
And the more distance there is, then that distance is seen as something like a journey that requires specialized knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, yes, you have to walk a path to come back. And you have to, first you have to recognize, you know, it's a bit like what Jay Krishnamurti says, you know, when the house is on fire, you get out, you know, there's no thinking about it. You jump, you know, you move.
Yeah.
You know, there's, so it's sort of like you have to see the urgency of it. But actually, I would say it's our birthright, you know. Like you go back, maybe I don't know how it is in Singapore, but I know in India that, you know, you go back just 30, 40 years, everyone is involved in agriculture, like literally everybody, you know,
Mm,
and everyone knew everything about
yeah.
seeds, about seasons, how to do the winnowing, how to do the milling, how to thresh the grains, how to pound them with the what we call the walaka in Tamil, you know,
Mm,
how to, you know, there was what we call a cultural identity.
mm,
And the cultural identity, you know, still there's a cultural identity, but that cultural identity is being very much eroded, I would say, because when you look at the food that grows around you, local food, food that
yeah.
grows easily, food
Yeah.
that has no carbon footprint, food that is very
Nutritional.
much a medicine,
Yeah.
you know, that food is why you have a body. Now, I don't know if any of your viewers, you know, they have read. books like the Upanishads, but the Upanishads an ancient Indian text, and it talks about these envelopes of existence. So the
Mm.
first envelope is called the Annamaya Kosh, which is the food sheath, which is the body.
Yeah.
You eat from the
Mm.
soil, you get a plant, you eat, you get a body. From the
Yeah.
body, you have a mind. From the
Right.
mind, you have a brain. A brain, you have a language.
Mm.
Language, you have a culture. So it's in the culture that all the knowledge of how to plant these seeds, how to save these seeds, how to grow this plant, how to cook this plant, for example, how to open a banana flower and make
Mm.
something with that like we're having today in our farm to plate cafe. So all of that is a culture. And
Yeah.
the more we're in an industrialized and lifestyle and an urban lifestyle, a lifestyle that values money over a relationship with the land,
Mm.
then the more we lose that essential knowledge.
Essential.
So you go
Mm.
in if you can see it quite well when we have school groups coming to the farm. So you get the rich kids schools, they come, and everyone has a smartphone, and they're like, sir, when can we go, sir? It's hot, sir, I'm bored, sir, blah blah blah. And then you
Mm.
get the village kids who come, and the
Mm-hmm.
village kids, they're like osmotic, they're so connected with everything. They
Right.
know all the plants. They still have that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So so you see, it's not a specialized knowledge inherently, but we make it a specialized knowledge because
Mm.
we move away from it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, at least if you're in India, all you have to do is take time. Time is the currency. Like you have
Absolutely.
your Singapore money and we have our rupees, and,
Mm.
US has the dollars. Time is currency. How much time you give to it will reclaim this
That.
birthright. Actually, the work we're doing is not permaculture. The work
Mm.
we're doing is called cultural redemption. It's the reclamation of cultural identity through understanding local foods, through understanding this fabric of what
Mm.
creates a culture.
Okay.
And you see that, you know, not everyone can become a farmer now. We have to accept, well, there is urbanization, there is, people do have jobs and mortgages and, and kids in college and mother-in-law who's sick in hospital, and they need money. They're in the
Yeah.
system, but they still want to do something. So I think urban gardening on a balcony is a very good, way
Concept.
forward. But
Mm.
I wouldn't start with carrots and tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
What I teach in urban gardening is to plant edible weeds. So there are a
Herbs.
huge
Mm.
diversity of edible weeds that are very much, symbiotic, or how do you say, a reflection of our culture. You ask any Tamilian about Manatakali, about Ponangani, about Moratakan, Thuduvale, Satinikere, all these things, they know that very intimately. Even you tell it, they start smiling. They're like, yeah, that's our, what we say in Tamil, nama kalacharam, that's our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so to grow those plants, which grow without any effort,
Mm-hmm.
with grow with even infertile soils, with grow with less water, that are easy to, very easy to get a success with, but yet you can put them in a samba, you can put them in a sabji, you can put them in a roti, you can put them in a tovil, a chutney, you can use them in multiple ways, in a rasam. you know
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that I feel people should start with, because then they don't fail. And they start to eat these foods, and they realize that most of these plants, they propagate simply by breaking them and plugging them back in the ground, so they can start sharing them easily.
Yeah.
And everyone becomes all of a sudden a beacon of hope, within a society,
Mm.
because without food we're nothing. We don't have anything. And as far as labor goes on a 1 acre patch, I mean, I think firstly, the person who owns the land has to be on the land. There's no doubt about it. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just employ people, you have to be there as well. So I would say, as well as the person being on the land regularly, maybe, you know, I think working with village ladies is a great thing, because they have so much knowledge, so much. They're not even aware of the knowledge they have, because people
Oh.
never value their knowledge. Like recently, I went to Rajasthan for I do this food forest consultation. I'm trying to build food forests all throughout India. And I went to Rajasthan, and this one guy, we walked around his land with his worker, and I pointed to one edible weed on the land. I said to him, because they speak Rajasthani, of course I don't. I said,
Mhm.
you know, to ask this guy in Rajasthani if he knows what that weed is. And of course he said, yeah, yeah, this we eat this in the village. I know they would because we also eat it. And then
Mm.
the guy, you know what the guy's answer was? Man, this guy's worked for me for 30 years. He never told me anything about this. That's because that's because you never valued him for his culture. You valued him as a worker to dig a hole, to milk the
Mm.
cow, I don't know, to build a wall, but never as a repository of a cultural heritage. And
Mm.
so working with the village ladies is really great because they'll teach you so many things about weeds and flowers and seeds and how to grow them. And after 15 days, do this first weeding. After, 2 months, do this. And they have so much knowledge,
Totally
and
agree.
possibly have one guy with you as well if there's little heavier jobs, but working with village ladies they've been my first teachers without a doubt.
Sure. So how many labors you needed?
uh,
That was the question. That was the question, that in a 1 acre, how many people you
I
require?
said no. I said a couple of ladies and one
Yourself and
guy
couple of
maybe.
ladies.
Yeah,
Okay.
one guy and
That's
a couple of ladies should be enough. Yeah. And if you
okay.
create a food forest, you if you create a food forest by, starting with long duration fruit trees, and
Mm-hmm.
then plugging all the gaps with banana, papaya, moringa, but also pineapple, tapioca, agati, and various other plants, and then filling again those gaps with lady's finger and cluster beans and pumpkins and different spinaches, and start heavily mulching that and include in their biomass plants that are used only for chop and drop, like Mexican sunflower, gliricidia,
Mm-hmm.
vetiver, and start really just mulching and mulching and mulching and mulching and keep plugging the gaps with more and more plants, the work becomes quite simple and especially I would say quite joyful.
Absolutely. Joyful for sure. Okay, Krishna, let's move to the next segment. Read the land before planting. So, beginners are often excited to buy seeds, start planting immediately, but natural, but nature may have, other plans. Before planting anything, what should be, the person should observe about the soil, sunlight, water, wind, and local ecosystem. So, how can we learn to work with the land instead of trying to control it?
So I mean, again, all of that knowledge exists in a culture. You don't need to go and find one Engrezi like me and who will tell all the answers. The old Tata in the village will tell all of those things. He'll tell
Mhm.
you, oh, don't plant here. This land floods. If you're going to grow anything here, grow rice. But don't start in this month because it'll be underwater. Start
Mhm.
after this month because then it will, you know, and don't do this here because this land is, too, I don't know, too acidic. You can only grow this. Or
Mhm.
this land has so much of a slope. Better we first make bunding to stop the water flowing across the land. You can
But
observe.
Krishna, nowadays taking advice, you're right that people who are doing farming from very long, they have a good. But nowadays people are doing farming with a chemical intervention. So their advice is also influenced by these,
No, I wouldn't listen to them. I'm talking about the old guy in the village who's growing raggy and stuff like that. I'm
Right,
not. I'm
right.
not talking about some farmer who
Yeah,
has
so we
been,
have to be
you
like,
know,
because
deep.
lately I'm also starting my venture in my place, and I feel whatever I'm telling, whatever protocols I'm telling, this. So they always say like, why we are doing this? Why they always have a big question marks
Yeah,
because
because they've been conditioned at school that the only value in their life is money. They
yeah,
see their neighbor driving Mercedes Benz. They want that.
maybe
They see the
nowadays.
they see the uncle has an iPhone 15. They want that, or 17 or whatever it is.
Mm,
They see these kids wearing fancy Nike and they see the advertisement on YouTube. Oh, you have to buy this and buy that. They want that because that's the perversion of our society, that
Yeah, maybe
essential.
we have disconnected from our soil so much that we don't know that whatever we are eating is we are eating zero, zero nutritional food,
Yeah, for
and we
sure.
are eating all those
But people don't
chemicals that.
care. People
Yeah.
don't care. They as long as they have money, they don't care. They don't think, well, maybe when I'm 60 or 70, I might have bypass surgery, or
Mm,
you get diabetes or whatever earlier even. So they're
yeah.
not aware of that. They're not aware of the importance, and they've kind of, again, it's because of urban life as well. We lose the joy, the intrigue, the mystery of our relationship with nature. There's a great
Yes.
mystery in being with her and seeing all her, her colors and her forms and her tastes, and how she expresses herself through the seasons.
Absolutely. No nutrition and no taste. Absolutely. Somebody is saying. And somebody was asking, can you tell in Hindi the plants which we can grow in between the fruit trees?
मैं
Uh,
हिंदी बहुत कम है हिंदी मालूम
yeah,
नहीं
I think whatever
Cantonese.
you told me, I can tell them that the in between they can grow kale, that beans. I think you said that,
No,
haldi.
I mean, what you have to understand is the fruit trees are long duration.
Yeah. Krishna, your volume. Yes.
Medium duration means banana, papaya, drumstick, moringa.
They are long
I,
duration
I'm sure
trees.
they, I'm sure they understand banana, papaya,
I
moringa.
think, yeah, yeah,
And
yes,
then,
yeah.
and then, and then you start to see, well, what else do I have that's medium duration? Oh, there's tapioca.
Tapioca,
There's also pineapple.
pineapple.
There's also then you start looking at all the arbi, the taro, and
Hmm.
the haldi, and you start to see that all of these things
Ginger.
can be put in between, and you see that after 5 years you have lost a lot of light because you got a lot of shade. So then
Mm.
you start focusing on the plants that are more shade tolerant, like that soran or elephant foot yam. It will grow in
Mm.
the semi shade.
Yeah, yeah.
Pineapple, semi-shade. Haldi will grow quite well in shade. The
Okay.
the the pipali, the long black pepper, full shade. You
Good.
have to start. You see that this food forest is not like, like if someone asks me to do a food forest, it's not like they pay me and then it's done. It's a
Mm.
process and it's a succession. After 1 year, this will happen. After 3 years, this will happen.
That's a lot.
After 5 years, this, and you have to keep you actually in a process of growing and learning with it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's basically having long duration plants, then fill in all the gaps with medium duration plants, then fill all the gaps with 7 month crops like the haldi and the arbi and the
Mm.
soran, and then fill in all the gaps with vegetables, and then fill in all those gaps with spinaches, and then start to observe all the edible weeds. So
Yes,
it's
I
a
think.
whole, it's a whole, it's a whole process.
Yeah. Thank you. I think the person who have asked giving a thumbs up, it means he's satisfied. Okay. Forgotten food and common mistakes. You speak passionately about forgotten local food. Why have these disappeared, first of all? And because from our plates now we hardly see those, authentic um, local foods, and why it is important to bring these foods back, why it is important for our
So,
farmers, why
so
it is important for our ecosystem. Yeah.
So forgotten foods are very often the edible weeds. They're very often boxes of local food. So local foods have characteristics. They grow easily.
Right.
There's no special knowledge. You don't have to do any course to grow something like moringa. You break a branch off, you plug it in the ground, it grows. Everyone knows that. There's no effort. There's nothing, special about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that it grows, because it grows easily, it grows everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's in abundance. And something that's in abundance is non exclusive. In our area, Moringa will grow outside of every, well, actually from here to the UP and Surat, it grows outside every house. It's
Mm.
so easy to do
So
and to grow.
Krishna, I think these native plants also, it's like because they grow easily in a, local. So it is like a nature's way to say that you need this, grow it,
I mean,
right?
that's another thing. But the
Mm.
point is that they grow in abundance, and something that grows in abundance has a very noble virtue, which is non-exclusivity. That
Okay.
means beggar and a king can
Can,
equally have moringa, but only
yes.
rich can have pizza. And
Mm.
yet, and if you go from my farm down towards the beach in Auroville, it's
Mm.
about maybe a 5 kilometer drive. There are 70 restaurants,
Okay.
70. Not one of them serves moringa, drumstick spinach.
Mm.
So you see the sort of, I mean, I don't want to be
I
too
mean,
critical, but it's almost like an arrogance in our society. We've forgotten the foods that are the foundation of our very existence. So the
agreed.
forgotten foods, they're also a medicine. They like moringa again, for example. It's not forgotten, but it's massively being eclipsed by industrialized agriculture. But
Mm.
moringa has all the essential amino acids and the non-essential and and omega 3, omega 6
Mm.
micronutrients. It's a superfood. But
It
many
is.
of these foods are superfoods, like the
Mm.
mahua. Mahua is
Mahua.
now just becoming really popular. You will see in the next year, super
Mm.
popular. And
Mm.
so popular that tribals won't be able to eat it anymore because it will all be being sold. Some guy will come
Mm.
and buy it all up.
Mm.
So there's even that industrialization of a forgotten food also contributes to the erosion of a cultural, of an ancient culture. And
Mm.
you see the same in Peru, or where is it, Bolivia or Peru or somewhere in South America. Now all the vegans, yeah, I eat quinoa, but
Mm.
we eat quinoa at the expense of native farmers in South America who can't afford to buy it anymore. you know
Yeah.
so so that the sort of understanding that these forgotten foods, they're local foods.
Mm.
They're the colors, the fabric of a cultural identity. They're a medicine. They have no carbon footprint. They grow
Mm.
without effort. They often grow in depleted soils. In many cases they grow in the semi shade as well. They grow
Mm.
very well in food forests, and they
For
have very
example,
high.
Krishna, even millets, if we compare to the wheat and the rice, even millets are like totally forgotten nowadays. It's coming into light. But I think that is also right.
Yeah,
What do you
definitely.
have to
It's
say?
one of them. It's many. There are many,
Yeah,
many, many. That's one of them.
one of
So
them.
you see these forgotten foods. They're not the product of agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture has one aim: to make money. But these foods don't make money. These foods are the birthright of any community.
Yeah.
You take something like the air potato, what we call vettili velikaringa, diaspora in Latin. It
Mm-hmm.
grows every year, keeps growing. Sometimes you get a 50, 60 kilo yam from one plant, and you cook
Really?
it, and it's so tasty, so
Mm-hmm.
tasty. But you won't buy that in a shop. But villagers would just be able to harvest it, just grows on the edge of their field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more that these foods are forgotten because that we see food as functional. You eat to go to your job, to sign in, to get your paycheck, to buy your iPhone, rather than understanding the foods that grow around us that are the foundation of our cultural, identity.
Mm. I always say that, food is everybody's business and soil is also everybody's business. Yeah. Because that's like, but we have forgotten and now it's commercialized and everybody's like taking all these things very for granted.
Yeah.
Well, Krishna, it was lovely talking to you. Before we close, I would love one simple takeaway from you. What is the one small action everybody can take immediately?
I think the smallest thing that, I mean, I don't know how is it in Singapore. I'm as a musician, I performed once in the NUS, and every food that we ate was packed in plastic, and I found it really hard to digest. So I
Mm.
don't know what the situation is in Singapore, but but you know, at least here in India, you have to find out what's local, and you have to at least create a menu from what's local foods. And if that means one meal a week of once a week I'll have moringa, it becomes like a puja almost. It's an act of love. Once a week we'll have moringa. Maybe after a month you'll be okay. Let's expand that. Once a week there's this we have green papaya growing outside our house. We'll make a sabji with the green papaya,
Mm.
or make a Thai salad, or make whatever. But start to eat local foods. That's the only solution. If possible, find things from local farmers. That's the best thing we can do. But at least start to have once a week to eat. You don't have to grow it, but you have to eat it.
Absolutely good. Well, situation in Singapore is they export everything from outside, and but yes, there are people like me and you. Like I'm very passionate, so I try to connect with the locals and try to buy that from the wet markets and all that. And in my house also, I have grown in my balcony, and because I'm staying in a seventh floor, I've grown. Curry patta, then that that carom leaf, then few of the aloe vera which I consume for myself, and I try to do my best. And back in India,
I
I'm
mean, that's
trying to.
already that's already great. Imagine in Singapore if everyone did that.
Yes,
That
I
would
think.
that would I think more than the nutritional and the medicinal value of that, it would change people's consciousness. That's the shift we're looking for.
Absolutely. If we start living life with awareness, I think this will come automatically because we as a souls, we as a humans, we have we have a direct connection with nature, so soil is the very beginning of that. Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting to be it's so spiritual also, because I feel you're very spiritual person as well. Thank you, Krishna ji, for your insightful, beautiful, and lovely deep knowledge. And many people are thanking you and thanking me for this
Thank you.
session, but all thanks to you. And let's keep doing good work. And guys, you can connect to Krishna McKenzie, and can see his inspiring work, and
I
keep.
actually I actually have, maybe some people are interested. I On my Instagram, in my bio, there is a link tree, and I have a very nice ebook, about how to grow a food forest, and that's quite inspiring to if people want to go deeper.
Yes, please kindly go and visit his page, and you can see. I think you conduct some workshops also, which are coming up in
Yeah,
September.
we have workshops every month that you can also see on the page.
Yes,
We
so
also do
please.
consultation for creating food forests, and all of those things. We're quite accessible.
Yes. So,
Yeah,
few people are asking, please share a book, sir, ebook, sir.
it's
So you can
it's
go to,
on the bio in my link tree.
yeah, so you can go to his link and you can find out that. Thank you, Krishna ji, for your
Thank
time,
you.
for your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day. Bye bye.
Thank you, Krishna ji, for sharing your knowledge, wisdom with us. Today's conversation reminded us that permaculture is not only just a farming, but it is a way of respecting, observing, and working with nature. We don't need to begin with acres of land. We only need to begin with awareness, curiosity, and small steps. Everyone watching, just start with one pot, one seed, or one local food. But start somewhere. And as Krishna ji have suggested, that do plant natural herbs. Start with that because they are quick to grow and quick to use. And if you found this conversation valuable, don't forget to share. Share with somebody who dream of making the farm or growing their own food or living close to nature. Thank you for joining us. Keep growing, keep learning, and stay connected to soil. Hi, Hema Dadwal, signing off. See you again on Happiness with Hema.